basically, he laid the foundation. He laid the foundation. If it wasn't for him, Power Rangers would not be what it is today. Because of who he was and what he brought to the show and what he brought to that character. He brought the character of Tommy Oliver to life.
Good luck.
Alright, what's up YouTube? Back at you with another video. First things first, I want to take the time to remember a friend of mine who passed away back in January. His name was Michael Carnell, and he was a guy who I had actually met on the internet a few years back, Instagram to actually be exact. In one of the comment sections, like a Power Rangers, comment section on a post. I think it might have been about, who's the better Ranger. I think like Tommy or Jason. And I remember me and him, before we actually became cool, me and him had this super long debate about who was better, and we're citing episode references and little facts and our opinions and this and that. And I think honestly that debate between me and him went on pretty much most of that day. It was one of those things where we were just responding to each other throughout the course of the day, and then we ended up following each other, DMing one another. I live in New York and he lived in LA, and I remember me and him saying that we were gonna hang out one day and probably go to a convention, as the Red and Green Ranger, because I think, even if we had two different, differences in opinion as far as who we thought was the best Ranger, we still kind of had, mutual respect, for one another, which will pretty much lead me into what I wanted to talk about today, which is the lack of mutual respect between Austin St. John. It really is one-sided, so I won't even say it's a lack of mutual respect, but it's the disrespect of Austin St. John, essentially, that I wanted to talk about. And the thing is, I wasn't going to say anything about his arrest because, truth be told, I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. Things happen. I listened to, Jason David Frank. He was just like, look, let's wait for the facts to come out and things like that before you actually go on and make a decision about, how you feel, like a final judgment, which is kind of like how I am anyway. So, I was a little bit shocked by that, but at the same time, like I said, I don't know all the details. I don't know anyone involved, so I didn't really want to speak on it. But I was watching a video of someone else kind of explaining their, really just kind of going through the details and, really hashing things out while giving their opinion, kind of like I'm doing. He ended up showing an interview with Austin St. John from 2020, and I think it was Coliseum Convention or something like that, something along those lines. And from what I know, all right, both of them have been kind of very vague as far as speaking on each other. They don't really do it as much these days. And if it ever got disrespectful or out of pocket, that had been years ago. Right, so I figured, hey, the beef is dead. It's not even really a thing anymore. Or if they just don't get along, they don't get along. But it's not a situation where they're bashing one another, in the public. Because I know the last few times that Jason David Frank was asked about Austin St. John, he just kept it respectful. He was like, look, he's a Ranger, I'm a Ranger, whatever it is that he ended up saying. He didn't really go into any detail. He didn't really open up a can of worms. He just kept it respectful. So I was a bit surprised to see Austin St. John calling, Jason David Frank and douche.
They cut Jason Frank, Amy, and Dave cut a side deal, probably through Frank, where after they all promised to walk with us and band together, it was only Walter Twee and I that had the balls to stand up for what was right. And now the Frankendouche says to the world, you got to have thick skin if you're in Hollywood. Okay, or you can have no standards.
And like just saying unnecessary things, and then now it pretty much gives me context to really speak on it. Because I never really knew what the issue was between the two of them. And for the most part, it always seemed like it came more so from Austin St. John than Jason David Frank. And basically, it's a situation where you have one guy who was the man for the most part, as far as like being the leader on the show, kind of being the star of the show and whatnot. And then you have another guy that comes in that pretty much steals his shine. And of course, there's going to be some sort of resentment there, right? That happens. It didn't. Those sorts of scenarios didn't start with those two, and it won't end with them. So what happened was, now we all know that the reason why Austin St. John, Walter Jones, and Tuli Tran, rest in peace, they left the show for money reasons, because of they weren't getting paid as much as they were supposed to be getting paid. And that, I understand that, and I don't think they're wrong for making a decision that they felt was best for themselves. So, because I'm an actor myself, and I'm in the Actors Union, which is, the Screen Actors Guild, and basically they make sure that you get paid what you're supposed to be getting paid when you work on, particular projects. And obviously, it seems like they're getting taken advantage of when, in the 90s, Saban and, the networks or whatever, they're making billions of dollars, and these guys are making what he said was $611.22 every week or something like that. And that he wasn't able to, essentially really support himself and his family off the wages that they were being paid for their work. And mind you, these people are making, again, billions of dollars. Like Power Rangers was, a worldwide phenomenon, really in America, but pretty much throughout the world once it left, Japan, and it really got out. So I understand that. I understand, trying to, take a stand for what you believe in and what you ultimately deserve. You know what I'm saying? If it gets to a scenario where you gotta leave, hey, you gotta leave. It is what it is, because what happened was Saban told them that if they join the union, that they can't keep their job, as far as what I know, or they wouldn't pay them, union wages. You know what I mean? So it had to be strictly non-union money, which again, even in this day right now, it's not a lot of money. So I get that. Him making a point out of wanting to, at least. So what he wanted to do was he wanted all the Rangers, all 6 Rangers, to pretty much walk out of production in order to force their hand, which honestly doesn't really sound like a bad idea, because at the end of the day, I think if at that time they were just going to get a whole new set of Rangers, it would have hurt the show. It would have hurt the show pretty bad if Tommy wasn't there, Kimberly wasn't there, Billy wasn't there, and really the rest of them too, because I'm not even going to lie, when they left, it was different. Like, I like Rocky, I like Aisha, I like Adam, but it wasn't the same. And if I had my way, Mighty Morphin at least would have finished out with, the original 6. It wouldn't have been 3 leaving and then getting 3 new ones. But obviously, Tommy was my favorite Ranger, so it didn't bother me as much that the 3 of them were gone. But I know, again, the original 6 Rangers altogether is just way better than the updated versions that we got prior to, obviously, Zeo being a thing in Turbo. So, and what happened was, and I actually had heard about that before I heard Austin St. John pretty much speak on it, and he said that Jason David Frank said, he went to Kimberly and Amy Jo Johnson and David Yost and was like, yo, like, we need to stay, you know what I'm saying? Or he had a talk with them and pretty much convinced them to stay on the show. So basically it was a split. So you had 3 who left and 3 who stayed, and obviously the rest is history. And I believe Austin St. John, if he didn't like him already, he definitely didn't like him after that, or hated him after that, because that pretty much, those 3 leaving pretty much gave them Saban leverage to pretty much not do what they were asking them to do, which I don't even think that was a hard thing to do. I think that's pretty much an example of like a 360 deal, which is like, you know, the record label's paying for everything. You know, they're in charge of merchandising, they pay for all the promotion, all the budgeting and financing and all of that, and they reap the majority of the benefits, or the lion's share of the benefits, and then you, the artist, you get maybe 25%, you know, 15 to 25% of that, you know what I'm saying? Whereas, you know, they get all the money because they're putting the money up. So I know that must have been the mentality for, you know, the people who, you know, were the obviously like the production forces behind the show. Now here's my thing. He was mocking Jason David Frank where he said, you know, in Hollywood you gotta have thick skin. And that's true, because look at him now. And what I mean by that is there's been a lot of scenarios where people were lowballed in the beginning to ultimately reap the benefits in the future. You know what I'm saying? So it's like what you can't get right now, you will get in dividends later if you could just stick through it right now. So I 110% understand where Jason David Frank was coming from, because you gotta understand something. Austin St. John, Walter Jones, well, not really Walter Jones, but Austin St. John was an unknown before Power Rangers, and outside of Power Rangers, he's still an unknown. You know what I'm saying? Outside of the Power Ranger fan community, it's not like he's walking down the street and everybody knows this guy, because relatively speaking, he wasn't on Mighty Morphin for that long. He wasn't a Power Ranger for that long, to be honest with you. You know, compared to Jason David Frank, who pretty much stayed with the franchise for a very long time. And look at him now. Look at him now. It's not like he has to work, or he works a 9 to 5. Like, I think, you know, Austin St. John, he had to work when he left the show. He had to work, you know, those stupid little odd jobs because he didn't stay. And I feel like had he stayed, he would have did the movie, which would have given him more money. Maybe he could have done, you know, more. Because my response to that is, you want to call him, you know, like Franken, you know, douche and this and that, and you wanted to leave, but bro, you came back. Like, I could understand if he left and he never came back like Walter Jones did. Bro, you came back multiple times. You came back for Zeo as the Gold Ranger, and then you came back again for the Turbo movie. So it's not like, yo, like don't sit here and then you know, bash somebody else for pretty much, you know, doing what you should have done or what you wish you could have done. You know what I'm saying? Because in the long run anyway, Jason David Frank was the smart one, because he was like, yo, like, opportunity don't come twice. If we leave the show, there's no guarantee that, you know, things are gonna work out. So you might as well just stay right now, because if you leave, things are gonna get hard. So he's trying to make it seem like basically because he left is why he said the Green Ranger got stronger, and why he became the leader and the White Ranger and this and that. Look, let me tell you something. First of all, Jason David Frank, to me, now, this is just my opinion. Don't come in the comment section trying to argue me, because, again, this is just my opinion. But Jason David Frank, in my opinion, was the better leader. He was the better actor. He was more family friendly. Honestly, I grew up looking up to Jason David Frank. I'm not even being biased. It's just the truth. You know, I grew up listening to like everything that he would say on that show, everything that he said outside the show. Who I am today, you know, a certain percentage of that is largely due in part to, you know, his influence on me from a very young age. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just to be the leader, to be that guy. You know, I learned that from him. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't get that from Austin St. John. Like, honestly, like, I watch him, I personally, I get nothing. Like, I took nothing from him being the Road Ranger at all. Like, he was just, like, whatever. Like, honestly, I feel like he had probably, like, the least personality out of all 6 Rangers on the damn show. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing about him that, like, stood out. It's like everybody kind of had their thing on that show except for him. You know what I'm saying? And then if it's for him being, you know, a fighter, well, Jason David Frank was better than you. If it was him for being the leader, he's better than you. You know, it's kind of like what Leonardo said to Raphael in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie and shit. He was like, yo, like, I'm better than you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, It's just what it is. And I feel like he just sounds like a hater to me, to be honest with you. And it's sad to see. And I never really wanted to come out and, like bash him or whatever. And it's not even that I'm trying to bash him. It's just the truth. Just like how everything that Jason David Frank ever said about this guy is the truth. Maybe that's why he never came out and said anything, because how can you really dispute the truth? You can't. So, that's my thing with that. I feel like, they're grown now and he never got over it. Like, he still never got over it. And it's like people always wonder why they never did, like conventions together and this and that. It's because he never got over it. He never got over it. It's because Jason David Frank lived the life that he wanted to live. He reaped the benefits. Yeah, you might have came first because he said, oh, yeah, Jason David Frank auditioned for the role of Jason and failed miserably. It's like, yo, come on, man. Like, really, bro? Because guess what? Most people, I'm not even going to speak on most people, but like I said, the Green Ranger is better than the Red Ranger. Period. I got him green now just to represent. Like, that's just what it is. That's just what it is. So, and then for him to kind of have all of this stuff going on, and for, JDF to say like, yo.
I want you to watch that for one reason. Watch his whole interview and watch how he literally just hates me. Watch my interview on Comics Coliseum. And when you watch it, tell me now's the opportunity where I could jab, and I'm not going to. Here's what I'm going to tell you. When this comes out and he talks, forgive him. Straight up. People make mistakes. Certain people know how he is and all. Yeah, I'm too nice. It's just the way it is. Forgive him. Make your own judgments. Do not let it destroy your childhood dreams of Power Rangers, okay? We all make mistakes. Thank you for telling me it's time's up.
I could easily, bash your name, but I'm not going to do that. And then he told people, he was like, yo, don't let this, tarnish your image of what Power Rangers was, because Power Rangers is just more than a TV show to us. Like, it's more than a TV show to a lot of us, you know what I'm saying? To like the average person, they're like, oh yeah, it's just guys in costumes doing flips and stuff like that. To us, it's like life lessons, things that we could have aspired to, especially if, someone like me, like I didn't grow up having like positive, figures in my life that wanted to uplift me and make me feel like I could do anything in life. I didn't have that. So, in order to compensate for that, I used to look at guys like Jason David Frank, you know what I'm saying? Because to see somebody like him do everything that he did on and off the show, it's like, it's very empowering. And I don't feel like that with Austin St. John, even if he serves in the military or he was a paramedic or whatever. Yeah, that's cool. And I'm not saying that if you think he's better or if he's your favorite Ranger, you're wrong. I'm not saying that. That's just my opinion. But I don't like how, he just called that man out of his name. Because that's when I felt like I got offended. Because it's just like, dude, you don't have to do that. And I've had plenty of debates with people like on YouTube, on the internet, who think that, Austin St. John is better. That's cool. That's your opinion. Who am I to say that you're wrong? That's your opinion. I'm not going to tell somebody how they're supposed to feel. But I'm going to tell somebody that attacking them after, 30 years, 30 years is wrong. Is wrong. And his reasoning for doing so is off. Because like I said, ultimately, everybody's entitled to make their own decisions, in life. Because I look at it like another scenario. If you guys ever seen, one of the first, black kung fu martial arts movies in the 80s, The Last Dragon with Taimak, basically the reason why we never got a Last Dragon 2 and 3 is because they offered him a sequel, a contract for 2 other films, and then he felt like it wasn't enough money, so he turned it down. And guess what? He never got an opportunity like that again, ever in life. Ever in life. So the moral of the story is sometimes you might have to take less money just to get the opportunity to get in the door or to get enough exposure, is to where when you finally leave that show, people will always remember you. People will always remember you. I bet you Jason David Frank can go somewhere and people, even if they're not like a diehard Power Rangers fan, people will recognize him. People 9 times out of 10 will recognize him. Why do you think they brought him back for the Power Rangers 2017 movie? You can't do a Power Rangers without this guy because, frankly, he laid the foundation. He laid the foundation. If it wasn't for him, Power Rangers would not be what it is today because of who he was and what he brought to the show and what he brought to that character. He brought the character of Tommy Oliver to life. Not a lot of actors can do that. That can stand out like that. And frankly, we haven't really got anybody like that since. Think about it. He's the one that went down in history. And like the other guy said, he's the reason why you see all of these actors now going to conventions and stuff like that, signing autographs, answering questions, taking pictures and stuff like that. Because he started doing it. So it's like, if Austin St. John is able to make a living now off of his very brief history as the Red Ranger, he has Jason David Frank to thank for that. And frankly, they should team up. Like, see, and this is my problem. Because, this is my problem. Because a lot of times people don't realize that you can accomplish a lot more together than you can do apart. And Jason David Frank can do everything by himself, but Austin St. John needs to realize, yo, you need to join forces because you can't beat him. You couldn't beat him then, and you can't beat him now. So join forces, like, yo, just squash the beef. Like, just have a phone call, just hash it out, talk about everything. Because for Power Rangers, Jason David Frank is the most popular one, so he created the market for that, where they can make money off of it. So really, instead of calling him out his name and saying, oh, Frankendouche, blah, 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 you need to thank that man. You need to thank him. That's what you need to do. You need to say, you know what? If it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't be able to make money signing autographs and shaking hands and taking pictures. So, thank you, man. And maybe we can work together in the future. Keep it classy, bro. He legit called him Frankendouche. And it's like he offered to fight you multiple times, and you wouldn't run the fade. So, that's my thing with that. It's a shame that, after all these years, Austin St. John is still bitter and like dissing him. It's like, yeah, like everybody can't be cool with everybody. It's like I'm not for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And whoever's watching, you are not for everybody either. And if two people don't get along, it's like The Rock and Vin Diesel on Fast and Furious. They just don't get along. It might not. It's not a situation where it's just to point fingers. It's just like, yo, like he's not for me and I'm not for him. We just don't. We don't mesh. We don't mix together. We don't. But to sit there and to belittle that man when all he did, like I said, they had their words before, but he doesn't say anything about you now. Yep, and he could have said stuff about you, and he chose not to. And he chose not to. And even if he said, oh, some people never change, well, hey, clearly he was right, because you sat there and called him Frankendouche. It's like, would you say it to his face? Probably not. Probably not. So if you wouldn't say it to his face, don't say it like on the internet, bro. Nah, because I never had, the privilege to actually meet Jason David Frank myself, or to get like pictures taken or any of that, because I did go to New York Comic Con in 2018 when he was there. But obviously anybody who's ever been to Comic Con trying to see him, it's like a whole long line and a big ass crowd, and I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I think it was just cool enough just to be able to see him in person. And then, me personally, it's like, rather than it just being like a handshake and just, an autograph and then, okay, bye, I'd rather it be like, thank you, man, for, just inspiring me and empowering me through your work, which is ultimately what I want to do, myself. But I can never say the same about Austin St. John. There are other people who can, but I can't. And I think he needs to grow up. He needs to grow up. Or fight him. Fight him. Like he been said, because he offered to fight him for $20,000 and offer to donate that to charity. And he didn't do it. He didn't do it. And I train boxing, so it's like, yeah, if you're gonna talk trash, hey, let's throw some gloves on and then let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. I've been done that. So if you're gonna talk trash, back it up. But anyway, I had to chime in on this. You know, I felt like it was necessary. I've said things that I haven't seen other people say, and like I said, I'm gonna go to bat for Jason David Frank every single time, unless like he does something like absolutely like Harvey Weinstein, like heinous or some shit like that, and he's not even that type of guy, so I don't ever expect for something like that to happen to him, or for him to have some sort of, you know, scandal, you know, like Austin St. John does, or, you know, the Red Ranger from freaking Wild Force and whatnot. So because the only videos that I've ever done on my channel was my Power Rangers Battle for the Grid videos and things like that nobody ever saw. But, you know, nonetheless, that's a fun game, and I like doing it. But anyway, so those are my thoughts on this whole situation. If something else happens, or if he comes out, you know, dissing Jason David Frank again, I'm probably gonna respond in some way, shape, or form. And it's not like I hate the guy. It's just like, yo, like, when you're wrong, you're wrong. And, you know, when somebody is doing something wrong, you gotta call him out on it. If you really care about that person, call him out on it. Call him out on it. Because everybody who's came after Jason David Frank should thank him for making it what it still is today. Yep. But anyway, please like, comment, subscribe, check out some other content on my channel, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.